Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Harrison Webb was sunk deep into the leather couch in the living room, a cold beer in his hand and his eyes glued to the TV. It was a quiet Thursday, almost midnight, and the Lakers game was wrapping up with a comfortable win. He had the whole apartment to himself, enjoying the peace after a long day at the project management office where he worked. Vivian, his wife of just 2 months, had left earlier saying she was going to her sister Rachel's place to help out with her nephew, who had a high fever. Harrison had offered to go with her, but she insisted she didn't need him, that it would only be a few hours and he should just relax at home. At the time, it had seemed like a thoughtful gesture. Harrison's phone buzzed on the coffee table, lighting up with Brandon's name on the screen. Brandon had been Harrison's friend since high school, one of those solid friendships that lasts for decades. Harrison frowned when he saw the time. Brandon rarely called this late unless it was something important. He paused the game and answered. "Hey, man, what's up?" Brandon's voice on the other end was tense, hesitant in a way Harrison had never heard before. "Harry, dude, I'm at the Apex Club and, damn, I don't even know how to tell you this." Harrison's stomach tightened instinctively. There was something in Brandon's tone that signaled trouble. "Just spit it out, Brandon." "What is it?" "Your wife's here. And she's really close to some guy. Like, way too close. They're dancing and kissing, man. Sorry I have to be the one to tell you." Harrison's world seemed to tilt off its axis. He sat upright on the couch, the beer nearly slipping from his hand. "Are you sure it's her? She said she was at her sister's taking care of their sick nephew." "Dude, I'm looking at her right now. Red dress, the one you said you bought her for her birthday last month. It's definitely her, Harry. I wouldn't call you if I wasn't absolutely sure." Harrison was already on his feet, adrenaline surging through his veins. "Where exactly are you?" "Stay there, I'm coming now." He hung up before Brandon could even finish responding, already searching for his car keys. The Apex Club was downtown Cleveland, about 20 minutes away in normal traffic. Harrison made the drive in 12 minutes, running yellow lights and driving with a volatile mix of anger and disbelief. Every thought was a stab: Vivian lying about where she was, Vivian with another man, Vivian destroying everything they'd built in just 2 months of marriage. How could someone throw it all away so quickly? When Harrison arrived at the Apex Club, Brandon was waiting by the door, visibly nervous, phone in hand. The blue neon light from the club's sign cast shadows across his worried face. "Harry, before you go in, you need to see this. I recorded it because I figured you'd need proof." Brandon handed over the phone, and Harrison felt sick as he watched the video. There was Vivian, stunning in that red dress he'd carefully picked out for her at Nordstrom, imagining how beautiful she'd look in it. But she wasn't wearing it for him. She was dancing in an unmistakably intimate way with a tall guy with blonde hair and a well-groomed beard. His hands were firmly on her waist, their bodies pressed together in suggestive sync. And then, clear as day, they kissed, not a mistaken or accidental kiss, but a deep, lingering one between two people who clearly shared intimacy. Harrison had to grab the railing at the entrance to keep from staggering. "Where is she now?" Harrison's voice came out steadier than he actually felt, a reflexive defense mechanism. "Last time I checked, she was still on the dance floor. Near the bar. She hasn't seen me yet." Brandon looked genuinely concerned. "You want me to go in with you, man? I can back you up." "No. I'll handle this myself." Harrison handed back the phone and walked into the club with determined steps. Pulsing electronic music thumped against the walls, strobe lights cut through the darkness in intermittent flashes, and the air was thick with the mingled scents of perfume, sweat, and alcohol. Harrison pushed through the crowd of dancing bodies, his focus razor-sharp. And then he saw her. There was Vivian, radiant and smiling, completely lost in the moment with the blonde guy. One hand rested on his chest, the other held a glass of champagne. They weren't just dancing, they were in their own world, oblivious to everything around them. The man whispered something in Vivian's ear and she laughed, tossing her head back, the same laugh Harrison knew so well. The same laugh she'd given on their wedding day. Harrison walked straight up to them, stopping less than a yard away. He stood there silently, just watching. It took a few precious seconds, but Vivian finally sensed his presence. When her eyes met Harrison's, she froze. The color literally drained from her face, her smile vanishing instantly. The champagne flute nearly slipped from her hand. Harrison. Her voice came out as a shrill cry over the music, pure panic. She immediately pulled away from the blonde man. What are you doing here? Harrison almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. Me? What am I doing here? He let sarcasm drip from every word. Why don't you explain what you're doing here, Vivian? I thought your sister needed urgent help with her sick nephew. Or was that a lie too? The blonde guy, realizing he was at the epicenter of an explosive marital drama, tried to quietly slip away, but Harrison grabbed his arm, not hard, but firmly enough to hold him in place. No. You stay. I want everyone to understand the full situation here. Harrison deliberately looked around. Several people nearby had already stopped dancing and were watching the confrontation unfold. Let me explain what's going on for everyone. This is my wife, Vivian. We got married exactly 2 months ago, 2 months. And today she told me she was taking care of a sick nephew, but instead she's here at this club, glued to this guy. Interesting, huh? Vivian immediately burst into tears, tears flowing as if she had an emotional faucet. Baby, this isn't what it looks like, I can explain, it's not what it looks like. Harrison pulled Brandon's phone from his pocket, it still had the video open, and showed it to her. Then explain to me what this looks like to you, Vivian. Because to me it looks like my 2-month-old wife kissing another guy at a club when she was supposed to be taking care of family. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's someone else wearing your face and your dress. The blonde guy, clearly uncomfortable and wishing he were anywhere else, tried to defend himself. Dude, look, I didn't know she was married. She wasn't wearing a ring when we met at the office happy hour last week. Of course she wasn't, Harrison cut in, his voice dripping with venom. The ring must have mysteriously fallen off her finger before she walked in here, right? Or maybe she tucked it in her purse so it wouldn't get in the way of her plans for the night. He turned his gaze back to Vivian, who was now visibly trembling. How long, Vivian? How long has this been going on? And don't lie to me, I'm already out of patience. Vivian let out a loud sob, wiping her face with shaking hands. A few weeks, she finally murmured, barely audible. I met Dylan at a work happy hour and we started talking and, Dylan. Harrison repeated the name like it left a bitter taste in his mouth. So you're telling me the ink wasn't even dry on our marriage certificate and you were already sneaking around with another guy? We hadn't even finished unpacking from our honeymoon and you already had someone lined up? The reality was worse than he'd imagined. Harrison took a step back, creating physical distance as if her proximity were contagious. You know what's saddest about all this, Vivian? It's not even the betrayal itself. It's that I actually believed in you. I believed you when you said you loved me, that you wanted to build a life with me, that you were ready to be my wife. Remember when you cried at the altar and said it was the happiest day of your life? I believed you. What an idiot, huh? Vivian tried to move closer, reaching out her hands to him. Harrison, please, listen to me. I made a terrible mistake, I know, but I really do love you. This was just stupidity, a moment of weakness. No, Harrison's voice sliced through the air like a sharp blade. Don't touch me. You made your choice tonight when you decided to come here instead of actually being where you said you'd be. When you chose to wear that dress I bought you to impress another guy. When you chose to lie to me, to your sister, to everyone. Harrison looked at Dylan, who seemed to wish the floor would swallow him whole. You can have her, man. Seriously. She's all yours now. Good luck, you're gonna need it. And here's some advice. Check her phone regularly, because apparently she can't stay faithful for even 2 months. He turned to leave, but not before speaking loudly enough for all the curious onlookers to hear. Alright, folks, show's over. Just another marriage ruined by a wife who couldn't keep her legs closed for 2 months. Enjoy the rest of your night. The public humiliation was instant and devastating for Vivian, who collapsed into tears as dozens of judgmental eyes turned toward her. Some pulled out their phones, probably to record or take pictures. Vivian had become the night's spectacle. Harrison left the club at a quick pace, Brandon running after him. Harry, wait. Are you okay to drive? No, but I will be. Harrison stopped in the parking lot, his hands shaking from adrenaline and rage. He took several deep breaths, trying to calm down. Thanks for calling me, Brandon. Seriously. I know it wasn't easy. Man, that's what friends are for. I wasn't gonna let you get played like a fool. Brandon put a hand on Harrison's shoulder. Want to come over to my place? Got beer in the fridge, and you shouldn't be alone right now. Harrison shook his head. No. I need to go home. Got some things to take care of tonight. He wouldn't have been able to sleep even if he tried. Anger was boiling, but beneath it was a cold determination. He wasn't going to be a victim. He was going to act. When Harrison got home, the first thing he did was look for evidence. If Vivian had been bold enough to cheat so openly, she'd probably left traces everywhere. He went straight to their shared office and there, sitting on the desk, was Vivian's tablet, the one she always forgot to take with her. Harrison unlocked it. She'd never changed the password, either too trusting or simply careless. What he found was devastating. Messages, dozens of them, between Vivian and Dylan. He scrolled through the conversation, each message another stab. Dylan, I can't stop thinking about you. Meet you after work? Harrison staying late at the office today. I know it's wrong, but when I'm with you I feel alive again. And the worst of all, dated a week earlier, sometimes I think I married the wrong person. Harrison's stable, has a good job, will be a good provider. But you make me feel things I don't feel with him. Harrison felt like he'd been punched in the gut. So that was it? He was just the safe option, the stable guy, while Dylan was the exciting adventure? He was the hard-working fool paying the bills while she had her fun? Harrison took screenshots of everything, emailed them to himself, saved them to the cloud. Evidence. He'd need it. It was almost 3 in the morning when he finally stopped digging. He had it all, messages, compromising photos they'd exchanged, even location records from her phone showing she'd been to Dylan's apartment at least 5 times in the past 3 weeks while claiming to be elsewhere. Every lie documented, every betrayal catalogued. Harrison didn't sleep that night. By 7 Friday morning, he was calling Richard Chen, a divorce attorney his father had used years ago during his own difficult divorce. Richard answered personally, even though it was early. Harrison Webb? Thomas Webb's son? Yes, sir. I need to schedule an urgent consultation. I want to file for divorce today if possible. Understood. Let me check my schedule. Can you come in at 9? Bring all the evidence you have. At exactly 9, Harrison was at the law office downtown Cleveland, a flash drive full of screenshots, videos, and documents in hand. Richard listened to the whole story without interrupting, occasionally jotting notes. You've got a very solid case, Richard finally said. Proven adultery, recent marriage with no children, clear evidence of premeditation and deception. In Ohio, that'll weigh heavily in your favor. As for asset division? The house we live in was mine before the marriage. I bought it with money from selling a property I inherited from my grandfather. It's only in my name. Richard nodded approvingly. Excellent. That's separate property, not marital. She won't be entitled to anything. What about joint accounts? We have a joint checking account we opened after the wedding, but most of the money is mine. And a joint credit card she uses. I'll recommend you close that card immediately and transfer your share of the checking account into a new individual account. Do it today. Don't wait. Richard tapped the desk decisively. I'll prepare the divorce papers and file them today. Based on everything you've shown me, she won't have a leg to stand on. It'll be fast and clean. Harrison left the lawyer's office feeling, for the first time since the night before, like he was back in control. He went straight to the bank, closed the joint credit card, opened a new account, and transferred all his money. Then he went home and methodically started packing Vivian's belongings, clothes, shoes, cosmetics, into suitcases and boxes. He wasn't being cruel or destructive, just efficient. She'd made her choices, now she'd have to live with the consequences. Vivian arrived home around 2 in the afternoon, eyes swollen from crying, still wearing the red dress from the night before. She stopped in the doorway at the sight of the packed suitcases and boxes stacked in the living room. Harrison, we need to talk. No. You don't talk now. You listen. Harrison sat on the couch, his calm icy and more frightening than any shouting. I'm going to be very clear because I don't want to waste any more time on this. The marriage is over. No discussion, no couples therapy, no, let's try again. It's done. This morning I already filed for divorce. Vivian staggered as if slapped. Harrison, please, you can't, we can talk this through, talk? Harrison let out a humorless laugh. You want to talk? Where was that desire to talk when you were sneaking around with Dylan? When you were texting him that you married the wrong person? Oh, right, I saw all the messages, Vivian. Every single one. Her face went pale. You went through my tablet? Your tablet that you left here unlocked? Yes. And I've got copies of everything. Every message, every photo, every documented lie. So don't try pretending this was just a mistake or only happened once. This has been going on for weeks, practically since the start of our marriage. Vivian collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. I'm so sorry, Harrison. I really am. I ruined everything. I don't even know what came over me. I'll tell you what came over you. Harrison stood up, looking down at her. You're selfish. You wanted security and excitement at the same time. You wanted a stable husband to pay the bills and an exciting boyfriend to make you feel alive. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. But you know what happens to greedy people, Vivian? They end up with nothing. He gestured toward the suitcases. All your stuff is right there. You've got until Sunday to get out of this house completely. Monday morning I'm changing the locks. The house is mine, bought with my money before the marriage, so you have zero claim to it. You can stay at your parents' place or at Dylan's apartment, not my problem. Harrison, please, she begged, but he was already heading to the bedroom. The conversation's over, Vivian. My lawyer will contact yours. And just so you know, I sent all the evidence to your company's HR department too. Apparently, there are policies against undisclosed relationships between employees. So you and Dylan will have plenty of free time soon. The look of horror on her face would have been satisfying if Harrison hadn't been so exhausted by it all. He locked himself in the bedroom and left her with her tears and her choices. Over the weekend, Vivian moved out, presumably back to her parents' house. Harrison changed the locks Monday morning and blocked her number everywhere. She tried emailing, but he set up an automatic filter. There was nothing she could say that he wanted to hear. The most satisfying twist came the following Tuesday. Brandon called with news. Dude, you won't believe this. Dylan got fired. And Vivian's in trouble at her job too. How'd you find out? Harrison was genuinely surprised. My cousin works in their HR department. Apparently someone sent a full package of evidence showing they had an unauthorized relationship during work hours and used company resources to arrange meetups. Dylan was fired for misconduct. Vivian wasn't fired, but she was transferred to another department with a lower salary and lost the promotion she was about to get. Harrison didn't admit he'd been the one to send the material, but he felt deep satisfaction. Actions had consequences. The divorce process moved surprisingly fast. With all the proof of adultery from the very beginning of the marriage and no children or truly shared property, Richard was able to speed everything up. Within 3 months, it was finalized. Harrison kept the house, the better car, and didn't have to pay Vivian a cent beyond taking on half of the minimal joint credit card debt. She received no alimony, no asset division, nothing. Vivian's social humiliation was equally brutal. The story spread quickly through their social circle. Brandon, still furious about what he'd witnessed, told several mutual friends, and word of mouth did the rest. Vivian lost multiple friendships. People who used to hang out with them as a couple sided with Harrison once they learned the full extent of her betrayal. On social media, Vivian started getting passive-aggressive comments and eventually deactivated all her accounts. Even her own family sided with Harrison. Vivian's mother, Sandra, called Harrison a week after the split. Her voice was heavy with shame. Harrison, I don't even know what to say. When Vivian told me what she did, I was horrified. I didn't raise my daughter to be like this. I wanted to apologize to you on behalf of our family. Harrison was touched by the call. Thank you for calling, Sandra. I appreciate it. But you don't need to apologize for her. Vivian's an adult and made her own choices. Still, you were always good to her and to us. You deserved so much better. If you ever need anything at all, you can call me. And Harrison. I really hope you find someone who truly values you. Vivian's relationship with Dylan didn't last even a month after their firings. Apparently, their passion only worked when it was forbidden and exciting, when it had the adrenaline of danger and deception. Once they were both unemployed and facing real consequences for their actions, the magic quickly evaporated. Dylan left her, saying he needed space. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Harrison's life looked dramatically different. He sold the house, it held too many bad memories, and bought a modern loft in Cleveland's historic Ohio City neighborhood. The space was entirely his, decorated exactly how he wanted, with no compromises or painful reminders. At work, freed from the emotional distraction of a fake marriage, Harrison excelled. He took on a major available project and executed it flawlessly. 6 months after the split, he was promoted to senior manager with a 40% salary increase. With his finances and emotions more stable, Harrison started traveling, something Vivian had always complained was a waste of money. He went to Japan alone, spending 2 weeks exploring Tokyo and Kyoto, rediscovering who he was without a partner who'd betrayed him. Then he went to Europe, Barcelona, Paris, Amsterdam. Each trip was a rediscovery, an affirmation that his life hadn't ended, it had just restarted. On a ski trip to Aspen, Colorado, a year after the divorce, Harrison met Melissa at a dinner in the lodge where he was staying. She was with a group of friends, a yoga instructor from Denver, and they ended up seated at nearby tables. When the waiter accidentally mixed up their orders, Harrison and Melissa struck up a conversation, and simply didn't stop. They spent the entire night in the lodge bar, talking about travel, work, life. Melissa had a calm but vibrant energy that Harrison found magnetic. When she mentioned she lived in Denver, just 2 hours from Cleveland, Harrison felt a spark of hope. They exchanged numbers, and for the first time since the divorce, Harrison genuinely wanted to get to know someone better. Harrison and Melissa began seeing each other regularly, alternating weekends, one traveling to visit the other. Harrison was completely transparent about his past from the start. He told her about Vivian, the betrayal, how hard it had been to rebuild trust. Melissa listened without judgment, shared her own past relationship stories, and they built something based on radical honesty from day one. After 2 years of careful, intentional dating, Harrison proposed to Melissa back in Aspen, at the same lodge where they'd met. This time, he was sure. They'd done premarital counseling, had deep conversations about expectations, family, finances, everything. There was no rush, no ignored red flags, just two people who truly knew each other choosing to build a life together. The wedding was small but perfect, just 50 close friends and family at an outdoor ceremony at a vineyard near Denver. Brandon was best man again, and in his speech, he joked that this time he wouldn't need to make desperate calls from nightclubs. The crowd laughed, but Harrison knew the deep truth behind the joke. That call from Brandon had saved his life, sparing him years of misery and lies. Vivian, meanwhile, continued her downward spiral. The latest news Harrison heard through mutual acquaintances: she was on her third failed relationship since the divorce, still stuck in the same demoted job, living in a small apartment far from friends and family, carrying the reputation she'd built herself. Her mother, Sandra, occasionally sent Harrison messages on special occasions, always polite, always lamenting her daughter's choices. Harrison replied kindly but kept his distance. 3 years after that night at the Apex Club, Harrison was unrecognizable from the man he'd been. He and Melissa bought a beautiful house in a quiet suburb between Cleveland and Denver, where they could both work remotely part of the time. They adopted 2 dogs, something Vivian had never allowed. Melissa got pregnant and they had a daughter, Emma, who brought Harrison a joy he didn't even know was possible. He never looked back. The lesson Harrison took from that fateful night was crystal clear and powerful. True friends warn you even when it's hard and uncomfortable. Acting quickly and decisively in the face of betrayal isn't weakness, it's self-respect. Some people show you who they really are sooner than others, and as painful as that may be in the moment, it's a blessing in disguise. And finally, trusting again after betrayal is possible, but only when you do the necessary inner work and find someone who truly deserves that trust. Brandon remained Harrison's best friend, proud uncle to little Emma, and they often looked back on that night, not with pain, but with gratitude. That uncomfortable call Brandon made had been a gift. It had spared Harrison years of suffering that could have happened if the truth had come out later, maybe with kids involved, maybe with far more to lose. Harrison had learned that short-term pain saves you from long-term agony, that truth is always better than comfortable illusion, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, building genuine happiness and letting the natural consequences of someone's actions speak for themselves. Vivian had lost a good man, a promising marriage, a comfortable life, all for a few cheap thrills with someone who discarded her the moment it became inconvenient. Harrison, on the other hand, had lost an illusion but gained clarity. He'd lost an unfaithful wife but gained the freedom to find true love. He'd lost 2 months of a fake marriage but gained a lifetime of authenticity and peace. And when Harrison held his daughter in his arms, with Melissa by his side and their dogs running through the backyard of the home they'd built together, he knew with absolute certainty that he'd won, not through vengeance or cruelty, but simply by having the courage to value himself enough to walk away from something broken and build something genuinely beautiful in its place. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.